And now to give you the example here, this takes a little time because you do need to hold the wire in place, but I'm going to go ahead and hot glue the edge here and then push the wire into the glue and then put glue over the top of it. Pull the wire up. Again, with a wet finger I will pat the glue down, and now you have to hold it. So again, I'm going to pull the wire back. I'm going to put some glue underneath, kind of melting the glue that's already there that formed the gusset before. And now I'll make sure the wire goes up into that. And then I'll put glue over the top of it, tying all the glue together. And now you can see the results using the hot glue to hold it down. So now I have the servo wires taped down the blender. Now I'm ready to install the horns. You have a left and a right on the horns, and the set screw goes toward the inside, and this is going to allow you easy access to adjust the horn. So what you can do is go ahead and insert. You'll have to drill out the servo horn, but you can insert it and then undo the horn so that you can sight where exactly you need to attach the horn. Because you want this to be straight. So I'm going to bring this back, and you have to allow for the offset of the connector here. So it's going to be on this side. So that means that connector, that horn, needs to be at about right there. So with a sharp X-Acto blade, I'm going to go ahead and cut a straight slot through here and make it about a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to insert the horn. I'm going to guess it about right there. So now I'll insert this horn. Now you can check and make sure your hardware is correct. And yep, that's pretty good. So I'm happy with those. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those in. Now this is how I go about gluing the horns in. And I've never had one fail. And I don't use the back. Sometimes they'll come with a plastic back. I don't use the back. You put the horn in the opening. Then you take the horn out and you've got an opening there now. So then we put some hot glue in the opening. And then we put the hot glue on here on both sides. Kind of smeared around a little bit, and then we push this through and we make sure it's in the right place. So then we flip this over and we wind up with a little bit of hot glue on the outside here, and we're just going to add to that and create that back plate that normally comes with these. And then with a hot finger I can dress this up. And now while I'm waiting on that to set, I can go ahead and do the other one. So again, you put it in, and that just kind of opens the hole up a little bit. So you can put the hot glue in. And then you put it on both sides. Now the reason you don't put the hot glue on the plastic horn first is because the plastic's actually going to suck the heat out of the glue, and it will start to harden before you ever get it in the hole. But if you do it this way, the plastic is the last thing that gets the glue, so it works out really well. So now I've got the horns glued in. I have to let these sit for probably 3 or 4 minutes so that that glue can harden back up. But at that time, then I'll be able to hook the horns up to the servos. Here's a look at the servos after being set up. Now what you would do is set your radio up so that your servo arms are standing vertical, straight up, and you want the elevons to be neutral, level with the top, flush with the top. The motor that I'm using for this project is an Emax. This is a 2812, and it requires a 5 to a 7 inch prop. It's 11.1 volt motor. The prop that I'm using is a 7.4 slow fly, and it's an APC prop. A couple of things about the motor. First off, the shaft. You want to take your prop adapter, and whenever you put it on, and push it all the way down. I need to cut off about 3/16 of an inch of this shaft because the shaft is actually a little long. And then the other thing, whenever you go to put on the prop, you want to make sure that the letters or numbers that are on the prop are facing the direction of flight. So what you'll do is take the prop as if you were going to put it on the plane. You're going to pick it up and move it back and put it on the motor that way. So this prop would actually be setting like this. The motor, of course, would mount back here, and the letters or numbers that are on the prop are read from the front, so I can see them here and here. And then one other thing about mounting the motor is whenever you put it on the mount, I run the wires over on this side and then run them through this hole here. The 2 set screws, you'll want to use Loctite to seat these, and then you also want to be careful not to over tighten these screws, because if you over tighten them, you will damage the bearing that's underneath the mounting area there. So if you over tighten that set screw, you're going to be crushing the bearing and cause the damage. This wire here I've already soldered in, connected it to the lights, and then I've also put some hot glue down to keep me from pulling the wires out or pulling them away from the solder joint here. You can see that I have the white on the bottom, and then I have the yellow around the edge, the perimeter, and then I have blue on the top all the way back to this light here. This light here is red, and then red goes the rest of the way down. So I have 6 lights of red, and then the rest are blue. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do as far as lighting. I will go ahead and do the same thing over here. And in fact, I've already cut my wire, or cut the lights, and I'm ready to install them. This happens to be the red section. This is the blue section. And then as far as tying these lights in, I've tied them in right here. I've soldered the wires from this strip down to, connected them to the leading edge lights. And then the same thing for the red. Whenever I connect them, I've just simply soldered this track to this track. So you have to make sure that whenever you put your lights together here, make sure that the polarity is going to line up, and if it's not, then you have to turn one set around so that the polarity will line up. After I've got my lights wired and stuck down in place, then I've run some short pieces of tape, and you can see them here. The yellow strips happen to be here. On these, I used clear tape and cut little strips about, maybe a ½ inch wide, and ran them and done about every 3rd space on the lights. And it's just an extra measure to secure them. Also, anywhere I've soldered, I went ahead and put tape over the joint just to help secure it. And that's the way that I went about making sure that the light stayed intact. As far as setup, you want to make sure that these are set neutral to start with. One thing that I found out through testing, as it turns out, the elevon doesn't need to be quite this wide. You can cut this elevon back to 2 1/4 inches, and so that's taking about 3/4 of an inch off of it. So you can score it a couple of times and then carefully just cut it all the way through, and then remove it the same amount on both sides, and then you will have the setup that I am using now, which, like I say, this elevon is now being used at 2 1/4 inches wide instead of the full length that it comes with. Here I've gone ahead and cut both elevons back to 2 1/4 inches. And now the last thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and reinforce my canopy. And because this canopy can be used on other WIZ bang models, I'm going to go ahead and spend some time to decorate it, and I'm going to show you how to do that. As far as the final setup, the ESC is going to mount here. The receiver mounts right here. If your motor direction is incorrect, the motor should actually be spinning in this rotation, so the prop would be going around this way. If you're going to use a regular prop, again, the letters are toward the front. If it's backwards, then you simply reverse 2 of the 3 wires here going to your speed controller, and you'll be fine. My lights plug up using this pigtail here. They'll plug into the balance plug. If I want to fly with the lights, I can. If I don't want to fly with the lights, then I simply don't plug this into the balance plug. Now, as far as the canopy, to finish it, I'm just going to tape it off, and because I'll use the fast forward, you won't have to watch the whole thing in real time. So this is how I go about doing it. And I'm just going to be using yellow packing tape to do this. Okay, once you've got the canopy covered with tape, I covered both the outside and the inside, and then you cut out the opening here and drill out these 2 openings here back for the tubes. That way you can slide it back in place. That will complete the information on the WIZ bang. If you have any questions, you can send me an email and I'll be glad to help you.